Welcome back, guys, to our podcast. This episode, we are going to be covering low-calorie meals around the holidays and self-sabotage things we do at the end of the year that end up making our start of the year goals a lot more challenging.
So we all know that going into the holiday season, a lot of us with health and nutrition goals who might not be where they want to be right now are kind of stressed around the holidays. They know there's Thanksgiving, there's Christmas dinner, there's all this yummy food, and a lot of us end up feeling stressed because we normally gain anywhere from 5, 10, even 15 pounds sometimes going through the holiday season. So kind of what Emma said is, well, what do most of us do? Well, we try to eat low calorie around the holidays and save those big meals to eat more. And I'm here to tell you that I think, and I'll explain later, that eating low calorie around the holidays is why you're gonna gain weight. And the lower calorie you eat, the more weight you're gonna gain, and then the more weight you'll have to lose come January. That's our first topic we're gonna cover, so we're gonna go into that really quickly. We're gonna kind of do a question answer format today, so I'm gonna weigh in on my side of things with my coaching, and then Emma's gonna kind of ask me questions to help guide the conversation today.
Okay, so when or why do you think this trend started of focusing on low calorie close to the holidays, and why do you think it's still a trend?
So the trend comes from most people. They know that, okay, well, I'm gonna gain weight when I eat more food, so I'm gonna try to, whether it be eat less, low calorie, or go exercise more to work off the difference. I think that's where it comes from, and like logically on paper it makes sense. Like, oh well, on Wednesday this week I know I'm gonna eat a bunch of food, so I really don't want to gain weight from that. So I'm gonna, starve myself the 2 days before, or maybe that's kind of hard, so I'm gonna use the guilt of eating a lot on that day to just eat less the next couple days. And I think that is people's approach, and what ends up happening is very rarely do people even do that. It ends up snowballing out of control where they have one big meal and then maybe that's the middle of the week and they're like, I'll just start eating less next week, and then it comes into next week and then Christmas happens and then it's like, oh wait, I just did 6 weeks of like having zero control over what I ate. And a lot of it's fueled from, oh, I'm gonna binge eat on this day because like I always restrict my food. Even if it's not like they actually do restrict their food, but just that mental like rehearsal of, I plan to eat so much on this day, like I don't even care if it makes me feel bad. It's just like people looking to justify eating a lot. And I'd leverage to say how they normally eat influences that binge. And that's kind of what I want to go into talking about today.
So if somebody normally overeats and their guidance was to eat in a deficit and lower their calories, especially around the holidays, I know we were talking about the effect on the metabolism of doing that, how maybe at first they might have positive effects that make it appealing. But then over time, can you go into what happens to the metabolism that causes almost the exact opposite effect?
So there's a live training I did in our Facebook group called the Build seminar, and it was all about using the winter holidays to build your body and metabolism to combat this normal trend that people tend to do of eating less because they're fearful of gaining weight, and then they eat more on the holidays. So what tends to happen is the body's metabolism is something that can change regardless of what age you are, your gender, how active or not active you are. Your metabolism always has the ability to change. We evolved for our metabolism to have a very, very strong sensitivity to whether we eat more or less. If someone were to eat less food regularly, the metabolism's job is to slow down. It's not that someone has a broken metabolism or their metabolism doesn't work. If your metabolism slows down because you're eating less food and you find it easier to gain weight because you've been regularly eating 1,000, 1,200 calories, and then you have that Thanksgiving Christmas meal and you eat 3,000, 4,000 calories. Well, that difference is what causes someone to gain weight, and the metabolism is doing its job. The metabolism, again, anchors what you eat to how your body uses that energy. If someone regularly, like I said, eats 1,000, 1,200 calories, the metabolism's job is to slow down and make all of your body's processes more efficient at using just 1,200 calories. But if I slowly over time, maybe now eat 2,000 to 2,500 calories, well, my body's job is to increase my metabolism because I'm giving my body more fuel. So it's telling my body, okay, well, now I don't have to be as efficient with my calories, so we're gonna increase your metabolism. So what I leverage to say is really important during the holidays is, well, if I choose to eat lower calorie in anticipation of gaining weight from big meals, what I'm doing is telling my body's metabolism to slow down. Again, it's not just the amount of calories that makes you gain weight, it's the difference between the amount of calories you had at that one meal and what you normally eat. The bigger that difference, the more weight you'll gain. So if you can make that difference smaller, I had clients last year work on this approach and they gained almost zero weight through the holidays. And what did they do leading up to the holidays? They focused on slowly eating more food, not focusing on burning calories through exercise, but focusing on teaching the body to lift weights, which also is an improvement, adaptive approach to increasing your metabolism. So it is very possible for someone to eat a little bit more food going to the holidays. Yes, it requires tracking because you want to know where you're at, and ditching the cardio, ditching the calorie burning exercises, the HIIT classes, all of those kinds of things, and lifting weights, getting strong, and that means moving slow. You're not trying to, sweat and burn calories when you lift weights. If you're doing that, you're not lifting for strength, you're just lifting to lift.
So a lot of people have probably gone through this cycle multiple times, and they think that certain symptoms they feel near the end of the year and into the start of the year are just due to the stress of the holidays and maybe eating too much. What are the symptoms of having a slow metabolism, and is that what people are actually experiencing?
So a slow metabolism can do a lot of things. If you're under eating by, choosing to lower your calories in the attempt to lose weight, or in the attempt to, in this case for the holidays, just not gain weight, what can happen from a lower metabolism is it can decrease your energy, but depending on how low calorie someone is eating, it can disrupt your hormones, it can disrupt your sex drive, and that has other effects too. You feel very tired, but it's not necessarily just a tired feeling. People would almost describe it as wired and tired, it's almost like a stressed energy rather than feeling like a restful energy. Inability to change your weight, seeing that it's very easy to gain weight if you ate a lot of food in one sitting. So eat low calorie, go Thanksgiving, I weigh myself the next day, I gained 6 pounds. It's well, that's a big indicator that you were probably having a slow metabolism. And again, those effects of having low energy, having a poor mood, having bad stress management, all are kind of potential causes of that lower metabolism.
So then if somebody is experiencing those symptoms, now we're realizing that it probably has more to do with what they're doing to their body before the holidays, and it's translating through the whole season.
Yeah, and that's why people will also struggle so much if they neglect these kinds of things and wait till the new year. When I generally work with someone who has a slowed down metabolism, the stages or the length of time it takes for someone's metabolism to perk back up in a way by doing those things I mentioned earlier, eating a little bit more, being mindful of trying not to burn calories but build strength and muscle through lifting weights, is that can take anywhere from 2 to 6 months depending on how slow someone's metabolism was based on how drastic they were decreasing their calories. So, someone neglects through the holidays, say, I'm going to wait till January, and then they expect to be able to lose weight instantly. Well, you can't lose weight with a slow metabolism. You can, but it will be excruciatingly difficult. You'll have to go extremely low calorie. So if they have to improve their metabolism first, well, they're not going to start being able to lose weight till that 2 to 6 month window. So I'm, Mrs. Jones, who is in January wanting to lose weight, but I have to build my metabolism first. Well, now I can't even start to lose weight till March or what's that, June? And that's a humongous time where most people are wanting to lose weight, 3 to 4 months prior to summer so that they can, look good for, summer season and going on the beach or going by the pool. That's when people want to feel good. So to work proactively, it's, starting in October or even September, if you're just hearing this and you're kind of late to the game, well, you can start now so that you can get those 2 to 6 months out of the way so that you can actually be in a stage where, okay, I have 10 to 15 pounds to lose, but I have to do this prep work first.
So I think that was very insightful, and I think hearing that now, even if people are currently in that trap, there is still time for you to correct your metabolism, start to experience the effects of more energy, losing weight or maintaining the weight that you're at compared to gaining weight. So I think this feeds in really nicely to our second topic, which is this trend of just self-sabotage during the holidays. It's a time of giving to others and, putting yourself in situations that are more stressful compared to the rest of the year. You're seeing people you usually don't see. You're around a lot of people. There's a lot of stress sometimes with finances because for different holidays, whether that's Christmas or Hanukkah, as you're trying to, do what you can for other people, that on top of having a low metabolism, on top of probably not getting the best sleep, being frustrated, being stressed, thinking that you can kind of achieve these grandiose goals early in the year, the new year, tell me a little bit more about how that even compounds onto the metabolism issue.
Yeah, so and this is probably two parts, like not only does someone probably gain weight from having a low metabolism and, overeating during some of the holiday meals, is that also the number one thing that makes it really hard to lose weight and make it very easy to gain weight is just having an abundance of stress. And if someone is stressed, they also will be resistant to losing weight. I do this concept all the time in all of my live trainings, is that day to day, we as people have kind of like a stress meter. And once that stress meter is filled, we can't do anything else that costs stress. Everything that we do in our day-to-day lives, you can think of it as energy, but costs stress, whether that's the stress of working out, the stress of dieting, the stress of trying to put on muscle, the stress of commuting to work on a busy day, the stress of an angry boss, the stress of angry family, or the stress of trying to plan for the holidays, or financial stress. So when you start to compound all these things, like Emma said, during the holidays, a lot of people potentially force themselves into having to travel to see family, and maybe that family not being as welcoming and nice, and it's just kind of gritting through the holidays because holidays are for the family, so I got to do it for my kids or for my grandparents or for my brother or my sister, whatever your family situation is. I know a lot of people force themselves around family members that maybe aren't the best for them, and that increases their stress. Again, I'm not saying that inherently is bad, but it is just one area that does produce a lot more stress. And if you include that, as well as financial stress around maybe the cost of traveling or the cost of wanting to give good gifts to the people you care about, on top of, a lot of people use food as a stress coping mechanism. So now, like I said, that 1 to 2 big meals around the holiday season doesn't just become 1 to 2 meals. It becomes very, very regular because, well, I'm more stressed, so I'm going to eat more. And and now you're eating a lot more. You were eating very little. There's a big gap now, so it's very, very easy to gain weight.
So what kind of tips do you have for anyone who has basically checked a lot of boxes of the things that we're saying people do around the holidays? What would you recommend as starting steps for right now, early November, to help prevent some of these effects?
So with it all being centered around stress, what someone would ideally be wanting to do is either, I call it the 3 R's. It's either remove, reduce, or relieve. So how can you remove stress for the holiday season? Well, you can, like we said, maybe be more realistic in what your financial means are. It's like, we all have heard our family say, like, don't put yourself in a financial hole to get me a gift. You can create a gift, you can make a gift, you can be more thoughtful with your gift. That could be a way to reduce stress in the financial area. You could be more, adamant in your family choices during the holidays. If you have family members that you don't like to see, it's like not, maybe in your instance, you might not always have the ability to do that, but maybe you do. Maybe you can go see a different family member or have your own Christmas. And if that's something that really, really does set you off, and you see your family, it turns into this whole fight, and like it's a week-long thing now where you're in a bad mood. It's like, well, is that really great for your health? Probably not. But like I said, you can also reduce stress. So maybe it's not being around your family for 3 full days. Maybe it's just being around your family for 1 day or 2 days, or finding a way to, okay, well, I can't remove this stressor, but maybe I can reduce its exposure to me. And this also comes from reducing stress by not eating low calorie and by not overeating as well. Undereating and overeating are both stresses on the body. So being more mindful to, okay, I'm not going to restrict my food and try to lose weight or be resistant to gaining weight. In the holidays, I'm just going to eat normal. That will also help reduce stress and reduce the amount of tendency you'll have to binge eat to kind of help cope with that stress. But then also just, again, there's plenty of people that say, well, I can't remove any stress. I can't reduce any stress. So, what can I do? Well, then it's very, very important for someone in that position to be able to have stress relieving activities. And it doesn't need to be, Zen meditation and yoga on a hilltop somewhere. It can just be going for a walk with your significant other and just having, something that it feels fun for you to do, something that takes you out of the moment and gets you out of your own head, gets you not worried about stress. Maybe it's calling, one of your best friends and having a talk for an hour while you go for a walk, or while you sit on your back porch, or maybe there's, maybe there is a yoga class that you love to do, or maybe it's treating yourself to, going to the spa or getting a massage done. If you can include more things to take care of yourself from a stress relieving standpoint, that'll also deplete that stress meter that you have. Like I said, the problem that people get into is their stress gets to a certain point, they max out their stress for the day, and then they take on more stress. And that's like taking stress from the next day, and then now you're overextending yourself. But if you can deal with that stress, get up to that point, and then realize, wow, there's a lot that I did today that stressed me out. It's really important to be able to squeeze out the sponge. You want to be able to remove it or reduce some of that stress, relieve some of that stress, and then be on a fresh start the next day. And that'll just calm down the body. It'll calm down the desire to cope with that stress, which most of us do in unhealthy ways.
So the last question I kind of want to go over relates to our last video, where I opened up about kind of my journey into removing alcohol from my diet and just my daily life. The holidays is usually a time where there is a lot of drinking and parties and all of that. Given that calories also come from alcohol, is there any tips you have for people who want to include alcohol? And then on the other side, for people who are entering this more sober, curious holiday season?
So kind of, I guess, 2 different spots there. I guess I'll answer the second question first. Whether you're drinking alcohol or not, whether it's hot chocolate, alcohol, non-alcoholic spirits or any sort. All of that stuff does contain a high amount of calories. That's probably one of the main reasons around holiday season why people gain a lot of weight. Again, like we said, it's because they start eating very low calorie, and then now they're way up here in calories, and now they have a big difference, and that's why they gain weight. But a lot of those extra calories come from liquid calories, meaning calories that are very easy to get in, they don't fill you up, and the tendency of alcohol becomes almost easier to drink as you drink more, which then you end up really in the hole for calories. So again, there's nothing wrong with alcohol if someone has a good relationship with using it. So in the instance that I would say, even if someone knew that they were going to have a fancy dinner and that there was going to be alcohol or just an excess amount of calories, say at dinner time, again, the goal isn't to undereat every day and starve ourselves, but what you can do is make slightly different choices in the morning and for lunch to accommodate for that. The body really likes to have around the same amount of calories every day. So I would then opt to choose lower calorie options for breakfast and for lunch. I'm not starving myself, because if I just choose to skip my meals, I'm gonna wanna have even more food come that bigger meal at dinner time. So I really like someone to do something along the lines of like having just a protein specific meal. So very low calorie, protein centric. That's really important because protein helps us feel full. It provides energy throughout the day. Again, it combats a little bit of the stress that we can build. So things like like a protein shake, a protein bar's fine. Things like Greek yogurt, beef jerky, even like having something like eggs and bacon. You can make that fairly low calorie if you do turkey bacon or something like that. But again, trying to keep like, okay, I know what I normally eat for breakfast and lunch. Maybe I don't track calories, but I know what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to remove some of the stuff that's not protein and keep the rest of the stuff that is protein. Well, okay, the calorie difference now will help combat what you're going to do in the evening. There's plenty of evenings where I go out to eat, or last night I ate an entire quart of ice cream because it sounded good. But I kind of knew where I was at calorie wise for the day. And again, I don't do that every day, but on the days I do it, I just kind of make sure. I'm like, okay, well, did I make the right choices with calories and protein for the day? And do I have room for this to enjoy this one time? I do. And by having that conversation first, I'm not creating like an unconscious like relationship with food that's going to be, oh, I get to eat all these yummy things if I starve myself, and then I get to binge eat, and then that becomes a normal thing, and it's really hard to break that relationship with food when someone gets to that point.
So what I'm hearing is that one time of letting yourself have a little bit more of something sweet, as long as you make the adjustments earlier in the day, not being that you eat less, but that you just eat more protein-centric foods so that it fills you up and can end up with the same amount of calories in the same day, that doing that every once in a while isn't what makes you gain weight.
No, I mean, a perfectly healthy person 1 to 2 days a week can have not the best meal or not the best food or have dessert or have alcohol. But if the calories for that day are okay, and it's really just maybe the quality of the food that's a little bit off, that's not going to really make too big of a difference in someone who's trying to lose weight, maintain, or gain weight. Does it make the progress potentially slower over time? Yes, but does it help someone potentially be more consistent? And in being more consistent, they stick to that style of eating longer, or they stick to that style of eating for life? If that's the case, well then they're going to be more successful over the long term.
So then I think the last tip I would give from my perspective is this is going to be kind of my first holiday season where alcohol is just not going to be involved at all. I've already been looking up on Pinterest different kind of mocktail options, and the tips that I would give people is to still kind of be cognizant of the amount of those that you're having and how many of those ingredients have a lot of sugar, because again, a lot of people who start this kind of sober curious journey end up gaining weight because of the substitutions that they make. The substitutions that they make end up having a lot of high sugar. And so again, drinking your calories is something that a lot of people don't think about. And it actually is a lot if you have 2 or 3 of a very salty soda or a very sugary soda, that, that adds up. That's probably more than, one alcoholic beverage that you were having before. And so just being aware of those substitutions. For me, I think for us in the house, having something like a LaCroix that is, pretty much just water, very low amount of sweetener and other things like that. For me, just having something other than just a water is what I'm looking for. So you can have fun with it during the holidays, just being aware of just the overall concept of liquid calories.
Yeah, and this is like a side point that when you are working on improving your relationship with a habit or removing a habit, say you're going from drinking alcohol to not drinking alcohol, you're going from a habit you're trying to change to a better habit or removing that habit as a whole, one thing I think that's important to think about, and this doesn't apply to everyone, but when you do something like that, you're working from 2 perspectives. You're working from, on this side, I'm trying to remove this habit that I've grown attachment to either in the past due to something or just in general. And the other side is, am I being honest with myself with potentially why I used that habit in the first place? Because like Emma said, like someone can remove drinking alcohol and they actually end up gaining weight, which I've had a client do this in the past where they removed alcohol and they're like, how did I remove all these calories and I'm not like losing weight? Well, what did you potentially replace in spite of not drinking that anymore? And sometimes people can go overboard with that because it doesn't give them the same feeling, so they have to do more of it. So if it's not just replacing the habit, which can be extremely hard, I'm not taking that away from anyone, but also what am I doing in the first place that needed me to do that? And sometimes that's the deeper question that you might not even be aware of. And especially like what we said around the holiday season where there's a lot of stress, I would leverage to say that a lot of what causes someone to use substances, whether that be alcohol, food, drugs, whatever, a lot of it comes from probably something as that's a part of their life that's not a functioning stress management strategy. It is, there's this thing in my life I feel I can change and maybe I use this to deal with it, or I use this to escape from it because maybe changing this thing is hard. And again, I think there are things where maybe someone can't actually change that thing and it is very difficult for them to, but maybe they can work towards it. But also just being honest with that's the reason why you're using it can be helpful for someone to work through their relationship with those things.
So then the main theme of the end of 2022, the start of 2023 is awareness.
Yes, definitely awareness in what you do and why you do it. I think a lot of what makes something easier to do is you have a reason. And that could also be exposing the reason why you've been doing something or the reason why you don't choose to do something. And it's very easy to just be unaware and just go through the motions. So, whether it's nutrition and taking a look at how much do you eat in a day? What type of food do you eat in a day? It doesn't mean you have to track food forever, but maybe it's important to be aware of what you eat. What stressors are in your life. It's probably really good to be aware of what actually bothers you and what actually can be removed or reduced. And then also being aware of just your own habits of, do I do enough stuff to take care of myself, or do I just put myself on the back burner for my spouse, my kids, my job, and in turn, am I then being self-destructive with my own habits because of lack of awareness of those things?
So we covered a lot in this podcast episode. I think it's very important, especially given that we are entering the holiday season. Do you have anything else you want to add, Tyler?
After Thanksgiving, we are doing a free challenge that is going to be a group style format just to help a lot of people kind of get through the end of the year with a little bit of accountability. Again, it's free just for the hope of, we know a lot of people that maybe even want to work with us right now and are like, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on in the holiday season. Can I start January 1st? Which is understandable. There's people who are traveling, they're seeing their family. They're like, well, I'm going to have this week off and that week off. So having a challenge set up where there's a little bit of group accountability, I think is something that's really useful for people. And again, it's free. You can take advantage of it. You can use it or not use it. That resource will be available and posted the week after Thanksgiving. So don't worry about it right now. That would be a really good thing to look at. Again, our Facebook community has tons of resources that we posted over the last couple months on topics that are helpful with this, different topics with how to work out at home, how to deal with injuries, how to track your food, what food to get from Costco. We have a ton of stuff in there. And it's also a place where we answer personal questions. You can post it in the private community and we'll answer it. And when we answer things, we do it as in-depth as we can because we want to be as helpful as you can. You know, us being coaches and working with people, we want to help someone that actually needs the help. If you can help yourself just with the information, then I feel good enough in just having been the one to give you that information. But if you do need that extra bit of accountability, you need someone to help coach, mentor you through the process. That's what, you know, hiring someone is meant for at that point. If knowledge is just the issue, you know, you can find that out there, and there's a lot of that in our community on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have.
Cool. We'll see you guys next week for a different podcast episode, and we'll